This story starts with an IT security consultant who broke bad. This dark web kingpin wasn't originally planning to become a criminal. Being born in Meridian, Idaho on the 10th of July 1972 to a father who fought in Vietnam, with a mother being the daughter of a Ukrainian immigrant. His dad owned a computer hardware store, meaning young Max was already well acquainted with computers from a young age. So his fascination with computers started earlier than most kids his age, leading to him becoming interested in bulletin board systems, which pre-social media was a server that would allow users to communicate with others through connecting with a terminal system in the 1990s. Something that today would be the predecessors to social media such as Reddit and 4chan, which still use this system to this day in a more modernized and updated version. But things get interesting when talking about his first offense, which had absolutely nothing to do with technology. In 1991, where he was convicted of an assault in the university after only attending a year at Boise State University. Even in previous years, in Meridian High School, he was found guilty of malicious injury to property, first-degree burglary and grand theft, after a parent reported missing chemicals in the school lab. But keep in mind, he was committing crimes as a teenager, and this behaviour only foreboded his future shenanigans. It would only get worse for him from here. Now, to understand the crime that he would later commit, we must first understand the platform he committed them on, the dark web. Now, contrary to common belief, the birth of the dark web isn't as dark as you may believe. Originally, the dark web was created by an Irish university student of Edinburgh named Ian Clark, who wanted to create a way to anonymously communicate with others and share files. The website became known as Freenet, being made in March 2000, which was considered a distributed, decentralized information storage and retrieval system, being made with noble intentions of someone having privacy issues and wanting to be anonymous online. But we all know it's human nature that some people took advantage of the fact it was completely anonymous, which is perfect for any criminal. Soon the place became riddled with the most graphic material ever seen, fraud-related info, and drugs all up for sale. The most revolting material you could ever think of is being listed on there right now, eventually having to be hid on a level below the normal clear net into now what we know as the dark web. Now you understand the environment that Max involved himself with. Let's get back to his story. After moving in with his dad in Seattle, he started working in various companies as technical support. He kept messing with the law though when he started installing pirated softwares in large amounts to unprotected servers owned by CompuServe. His excessive downloading started to consume so much bandwidth at work to the point where his employers at CompuServe ended up firing him. Max Butler even messed with the US government at one point. In the spring of 1998, when trying to fix a security problem with a government website, he installed a backdoor, which meant he gave himself access to the website whenever he wanted, which is completely illegal, which landed him with an 18-month federal prison sentence after pleading guilty to unauthorized access to the Defense Department's computers. His sentencing started in May 2001 and ended in 2003. By this point, he had also changed his surname to Vision previously. The release from prison left him desperate for work after being put into a halfway house due to his release, giving him an ultimatum of finding a job or he would end up back in prison, which was even worse for him as he went from earning $120 an hour to being forced to work at minimum wage, which is $5 an hour. At this point, he had his eyes set on something far larger than himself. The dark web was a waiting temptation to take, and a desperate man with the skills of an elite hacker and the hunger for money is a dangerous place. In the summer of 2006, his plan began. He went by the name Iceman, and his goal was to rule the fraud for the darknet. He strategically thought he would be better supplying the fraudsters with the information instead of doing it himself after Googling it, through a method called carding, which is a form of trafficking, specifically for the unauthorized access of credit card information. He also ran into contact with a friend he made in prison, who brought him his partner in crime, Christopher Aragon. He was already a career criminal, and originally his speciality was bank robbery. He was known through the 80s, where he had a string of them, but he had reformed his ways and started a legitimate business, which was a computer leasing company to supply startup businesses, but it completely fell apart with the introduction of the internet, making it outdated. He had a family to look after, so he was as desperate as Max. So Max locked in, making sure to take down all competing websites on the dark web, which was full, to make sure cardedmarket.com was on top. He absolutely dominated and eliminated all of his competition. He was so good, he was able to redirect the customers of his now defunct rivals' websites to his website instead. He even went to the extent of scrubbing their databases, copying all their information, to sell on his website. This is mainly how he got started with his dark web empire. He ended up amassing a consumer base of 4,000 members. But now I'm going to explain how this operation works. Max and his employees he had started to gain during his time doing this would continue to gain more credit card details from Cardi. Then Chris Aragon, now based in Los Angeles, would buy a large amount of designer items, jewelry, along with electronics, as he was the money launderer for the empire. To buy these items, they had to print stolen credit card information onto blank cards. Aragon then gave the cards to the money mules, who were 4 to 5 attractive women, who would help with spending all the money as well. When all these things were bought, they were returned to Chris, who would resell them on eBay at low prices for quick processes. This was a daily occurrence. In a small amount of time, they were able to make $86 million. But all criminal masterminds have a downfall, and Max Vision would have to pay for his crimes. On May the 12th, 2007, Chris Aragon was doing his usual routine of buying luxury items. Chris and a fellow associate did this at a fashion outlet shop called Fashion Island at Bloomingdale. They have collected $13,000 worth of items, but when they finally went to pay for the items, that's when their usual method failed. When the magnetic encoding on the back of the card didn't match the imprint of the card, it automatically meant the card was flagged as fake to the store. The Newport Beach police were alerted, leading them to getting arrested in the parking lot. This event exposed to the FBI that the Iceman had snitches in his business. Lighter sentences would make anyone switch sides, but Aragon refused to fall to the pressure and betray his friend Iceman. But unfortunately for him, they didn't need any of his information to get to Max. The records of the business and his associates gave clues. The main rat was Brett Shannon Johnson, aka the Zebra, who was originally one of Cardi's Market's first admins on the site, who got caught after selling counterfeit checks in the city of Charleston in South Carolina. After being caught, he agreed to become an undercover operative for the Secret Service. Max caught him and banned him from the site. In March of the same year, he had been convicted of wire fraud and identity theft. A week after the trial, it was the FBI's plan to extort information out of him, and in return, he would hopefully have a lighter sentence, with his lawyer conducting an interview with him and the FBI. Over the next 3 weeks, he had exposed everything they needed. He gave the location of Vision, San Francisco. The fact Butler sold digital goods under the name Iceman. He also exposed Chris Aragon for being a partner in this illegal business, leading with Chris pleading guilty to helping with the criminal ring, which landed him with 25 years behind bars, being sentenced in 2012. But back to the Kingpin, he was finally caught. On September the 5th, 2007, Max Vision's corporate apartment safe house was breached by the FBI, and they had finally got it, charging him with wire fraud and stealing up to 2 million credit card numbers. He was sentenced to 13 years in prison at the FCI Victorville, which was the longest prison sentence for hacking anyone had received at the time. He was then put on a 5-year supervised release and was ordered to pay $27.5 million to victims for restitution. And that was the end of his reign. You may now ask where he is now. Max Vision was released on the 14th of April 2021. Since the criminal saga of Iceman, Max Vision mentioned at the trial he wanted to use his skills for the good of society. We can only hope he sticks to his word.